You know, when you're buying a house, there's this one single word that can mean the difference between getting that amazing chandelier you fell in love with and watching the seller pack it up in their moving truck. Today, we're going to break down that word, chattel. So let's start with the big question, the one that trips up everybody. You sign the papers, you get the keys, but what about the fridge, the curtains, that awesome patio furniture out back? Sometimes, yeah, and sometimes no. And trust me, getting it wrong can cause some major last-minute headaches. So let's get you some clarity. And the word that separates what stays from what goes is chattel. Now, it might sound a little old-fashioned, but understanding this one little term is absolutely crucial for any real estate deal because it defines what you're actually buying. So what is it exactly? Well, to put it simply, chattel is just movable personal property. It's all the things that aren't the land itself and aren't permanently bolted down or wired into the building. Basically, it's the seller's stuff, not the house itself. Think of it like two sides of a coin. On one side, you have real property. That's the land, the house, and anything that's considered a permanent part of it. And on the other side, you've got chattel, all that movable personal stuff inside and around the house. And if you're sitting there thinking, hang on, chattel sounds a whole lot like cattle. Well, you are 100% right. And believe it or not, that's not a coincidence at all. See, historically, livestock like cattle was a huge form of movable wealth. It was property you could literally walk away with. So use that as a memory trick. Chattel is property that can walk, whether we're talking about a cow or a couch. But I want to give you an even better tool. A little mental model that you will never, ever forget, especially when you're in the middle of a deal trying to figure this out. It's called the Shake the House test. It's honestly as simple and kind of as fun as it sounds. Right now, in your mind's eye, I want you to picture picking up the whole entire house, flipping it over like it's a giant snow globe, and just giving it a really good shake. Everything that falls out? Yep, that's chattel. The sofa, the dining room table, those area rugs, the lamps, even the car sitting in the driveway. If it's not nailed down, bolted in, or plumbed into the walls, it's almost certainly chattel and the seller takes it with them unless you agree on it. So what stays put when you shake it? Well, the walls, the roof, the pipes, the built-in kitchen cabinets, and the sink, that big central air conditioning unit. All of this stuff is part of the real property. It doesn't fall out, so it stays. Simple, right? Okay, so that little mental model, the shake test, it solves like 90% of the confusion. But now we gotta talk about that tricky 10%, that gray area that trips people up on real estate exams and, way more importantly, in real life. Let's talk about fixtures. A fixture is this fascinating in-between category. See, it's an item that started its life as chattel, as a regular, movable object. But then it got attached to the property in a way that now makes it legally part of the building. That beautiful chandelier is the perfect example. You buy it at a store, and at that point, it's chattel. But the second an electrician wires it into the ceiling of the dining room, boom, it becomes a fixture. Same goes for curtain rods you screw into the wall or a mailbox that's bolted to the house. These things are generally intended to stay put. So the really crucial question, the one that courts often ask, is this. Is the item attached in such a way that it's now considered a core part of the property? The way it's attached and the intention behind it, that is absolutely key. All right, now, while all these definitions and tests are great for understanding the theory, in the real world, there is one rule to rule them all. And this right here is probably the most important thing you'll take away from this whole explainer. It's so simple. When in doubt, write it out. The purchase agreement, the contract, that is the ultimate authority. It can override every single assumption we've just talked about. Buyers and sellers argue over the exact same items year after year. Refrigerators are a classic. Washers and dryers, too. And what about that beautiful flat-screen TV that's mounted so perfectly on the wall? You know, the seller might say the TV is chattel, but the wall mount is a fixture. The best way to avoid that entire fight is to just get specific in the contract. Let me say that one more time, because it is that important. The agreement controls everything. If the contract says the seller's freestanding bookshelf is included, then it stays. If it says the buyer wants the washer and dryer and the seller agrees in writing, it is a done deal. The contract is always king. All right, we have covered a ton of ground here. So let's boil all of this down into a final, super simple cheat sheet that you can use whether you're studying for an exam or getting ready for your next home purchase. Here are the keywords you want to watch for.
When you see terms like personal property or movable, your brain should immediately go chattel. And when you see words like attached, built-in, or permanent improvement, you should be thinking real property or fixture. This is your quick scan guide right here.
So let's end with a little thought experiment. You walk into a house, you see a standard refrigerator just plugged into the wall, and you see a TV that has been bolted onto the wall with a big mount. Based on everything we just covered, which one of those is more likely to be included with the house and why? The answer to that really shows how well you now understand that critical line between chattel and a fixture.